Good morning, Coach Mel here with Coach Mel's Crochet Corner. And I'm going to come to you today with making this nice little device, if you would, for the masks, because unfortunately masks are part of our life now. Now, many of you have probably seen ones like this, and then you loop each side of the mask onto it. And that's fine, it works. Sometimes they slip off, but it does work. But I discovered that I wanted to have one side attached, and then I wanted to make a loop down at the other side so that when you bring it through the elastic, you then can loop it around that button. And it stays a little bit sturdier, and if you want to, you can slip this down around your neck. I do Instacart deliveries, and after I get in the car, I like to slip it down, but then when I do the delivery to the person's house, I want to put the mask back up. So this allows it to stay together. So I'm going to show you how to make this one today, and then we're going to adapt this one, because if you are using, this is a cloth mask, as you could see. So I'm good to have it attached, and it's going to stay attached. I could wash it with it on. But if you are using disposable masks, you're going to want one that can come off. So I'm going to show you, we're going to add the loops onto this one to make this one similar to this, but to be able to be removed. So what you're going to need, you're going to need some yarn. I just have a regular worsted weight yarn here. I'm using a G hook because you want your stitches to be nice and tight so that it doesn't stretch a lot. It'll have a little bit of give to it, but not much. You're going to need a button. Anything will do. I started going a little bit bigger than what I was using before, and then needle. Now you need to make sure that your needle is going to fit through the buttonhole. So the needle that I typically use when I do my crocheting, unfortunately, will not fit. So make sure that you have a needle that will fit through that hole with a little bit of room, because don't forget you're going to have the yarn on there as well. All right. So let's get started. So we're going to take that yarn and we're going to start with getting that onto our hook with our slip stitch like usual, but leave a nice long tail, longer than you may usually leave, because we're going to use that to do some of the stitching to the mask, okay? From here, we're going to chain 25. Now, you can do this whatever size you need. If you need it to be longer, if you need it to be shorter, just adjust your chains. You might have to play around with it a little bit. I'm going to do 25 here. Just yarn over and pull through as your standard chain. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. All right, so I am making this a little bit longer than this other one that I have made. What you're going to do now is, this is all going to be single crochet, so it's very basic. We're going to skip that first one. We're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So it's go through, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, come through both loops. Let's do that again. So go into the top of the chain there, pull up your loop, so yarn over and pull it through. We have 2 on the hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2. So we're going to continue that all the way down to the end. Whoops. All right, so you can go ahead and pause the video if you'd like, and go ahead and finish making that chain down to the end. Okay, I've made it down to the end here. I have 1 chain left, so I'm going to go into that last chain. Now you can see it's pretty curly. That's okay, it'll straighten out. You do want it on the tight side because we don't want it to stretch too much. So now we're going to turn and go back the other way. Again, this is all just single crochets, but what you want to do is chain 1. You're going to turn your work, and I always start right away in that first one underneath the chain. That's going to help you keep nice even edges, and you don't have to battle with trying to get into the chain when you get down to the end. So go right into that first stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and through both loops. You're going to continue the single crochet all the way down. Now I started with a chain of 25. I started in the second chain from the hook, which means that is giving me 24. So if you want to make sure that you keep it nice and even, you can count your stitches as you make your way back down. So continue back down this side, making your single crochets, and I will meet you at the end. All right, I've made my way down to the end. I have one stitch left here, so I'm going to go into that final stitch. I am not going to go into that chain that we skipped when we started. And now I'm going to turn one more time, so I'm going to chain one. Actually, we're going to do 2 more rows. And then we're going to go immediately into that very first stitch right underneath the chain. Again, just continuing single crochets all the way down to the other end. And you should have 24 if you're counting. That'll help make sure that your ends are nice and straight. So go ahead and finish that down to the end. I'll meet you down there. All right, here I am at the end of this row. Again, I'm gonna do that last single crochet in the last single crochet from the row before. I'm not trying to go into the chain one, and then we're gonna chain one, turn. We're gonna do one more row. So you could see my tail is here. I wanna make sure that my other end finishes down away from my tail. So that's why I'm gonna do one more row. So I'm gonna single crochet in that first stitch directly underneath the chain, and then I'm just gonna continue with those single crochets until I get down to the other end. And then we do some new work when we get down to that end. So go ahead and finish this last row of single crochets, and I will meet you down at the end. Okay, here I am back down at this other end, and I just have that one left to do. So we're gonna single crochet right there. Okay, so the body of this is done. It's a little twisted, that's okay, it'll flatten out. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this little loop end piece, and then put the button on. So your chain is gonna depend on the size of your button. I'm using pretty big buttons on this one. So my chain is gonna be about 8 or 9, but you can, really take that button and push it through the chain and make sure that it's gonna be able to fit through. It's okay if it's snug. So I'm just gonna chain from right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that chain is now going to get attached over here to the bottom of this. Just pick a little area where you can get through easily. Come through on that corner and pull through, and we're slip stitching, so then we're just gonna pull through again. So now I've made that loop. I'm gonna do a quick check before I go any further, just make sure that my button will slide through there, but it's not too loose, and it does. So that's a good place for me to stop. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna fasten this off, but again, I'm gonna leave a pretty long chain, a tail, because I'm gonna use that tail to attach my button, okay? So go ahead and pull that through so we are finished off on that end. So we've got our loop, we've got our tail, so that we can now work on attaching our button, all right? So I'm gonna bring the button in just a little bit for that attachment. So go ahead and grab your needle that is small enough to fit through your button. Let's thread that, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, from this corner, because I'm gonna come in, I'm just gonna kind of weave underneath a couple of stitches here to where I'm gonna put my button. So just pull that through a little bit. Don't pull too tight because you don't wanna pull that corner in too much. All right, and now I'm gonna put my button on. So I'm gonna bring that yarn right through the button, put it into place where I want it, okay? And then I'm just gonna do 2 times through. I'm going to go back down, come back up. If I could find the hole. There we go. And I'm going to go down again. Okay. Now I'm going to do something, I know there's a term for it in sewing, but I can't think of what it is right now. But I'm going to come up behind the button. I'm not going through the hole. And I'm just going to do a couple of rounds around that button. That just helps hold it up a little bit. It'll be a little bit easier to get your loop over it. And then bring yourself back down and behind that. Okay, so I'm now at the back of this. My button is secured. I'm down behind it. And I'm gonna come through a couple of stitches and then come through my loop, making a little bit of a knot back there. I don't wanna make it bumpy on the back because this is gonna be, you know, basically what's against your head. But now I'll weave through, and I backtrack every once in a while on my weaving through, so I'll come through, I'll backtrack a little bit, and then come through again. And then we're gonna do some final little weaving in right here. And then I'm just gonna clip that. Okay, so we have our button on. We have our tail down here. So this is the side that's gonna get attached to our mask. So I'm gonna grab this mask over here. Now, what you wanna make sure is you're gonna actually bring this to the outside when you do the attachment, so the same side as that. Because again, you don't want it to be bulky. This is gonna be what's behind your head. I'm gonna bring it up this way. So go ahead and loop that around your mask, around that elastic, fold it over. All right, and we gotta and you can use your bigger needle for this one because you don't have to go through any buttonholes this time. So I'm gonna use my bigger tapestry needle. All right, and then I'm just gonna do a couple of ups and downs here to attach this right here. I like to come around the end and come back through. And I'm gonna come back this way and up. And I'm gonna come around this end one more time and down. All right, and then back here I'm gonna do similar. I'm gonna do that little loop around to knot it. So come through a stitch. I'm gonna come back through that loop, get a little pull there, and go up a little bit. I'll do a back track on that. Come forward. I'm gonna loop through that again, fasten it again. And then I always like to finish with going forward with that weave through a little bit. And go ahead and snip that. Okay, so there we have it. This is now attached to directly onto my mask. So when I go to put it on, you're just gonna loop, let your elastic go just beyond the loop, and then you're gonna bring that loop around. Of course, this is on your face when you're doing it. You're gonna bring that loop around, and now it's much more secure. It's gonna stay on, even if you take, the mask down away from your face and it's loose, this isn't gonna fall off, okay? When you have this one, and let's just throw it on this mask for a second, and you have it like this, okay? If there's not tension there, and you drop it down, it falls off. I've also had this fall off altogether and go down into my shirt and all that. So that's why I like this one. It's still easy to get on and off, and it just allows you to have a little bit more security on that side, and you can also lower your mask without it falling off, okay? I'm gonna show you now how to adapt this one to to have some loops on it. We're going to add loops to this one so that you can use this one as well, and this can be used on a disposable mask. You would need to have 2 buttons when you're doing it on a disposable mask because you need to be able to get it on and off each side. All right, so some of you have been using these to hold on your masks, which they're fine, but we're gonna adapt this one a little bit to make it so that it's more secure on your mask, and this would be used for a disposable mask. We just made this one that is attached to a cloth mask that can go and be washed right along with the mat, but for those of you who wear disposable masks, you need something that you're able to take on and off when you dispose of that mask. So I'm going to take this one. There are a lot of these floating out there. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to show you how to adapt it to have the little loops on the end so that it could be used for disposable. So I have my G hook. I have some yarn. It's not the same yarn, but that's okay. And we're going to start just by coming down to the end and go ahead and put your hook through there. And you're gonna leave you don't need a very long tail, but leave a little bit of a tail. You're gonna take that and you're gonna pull it through where you went in, all right? So just pulling up a loop there. From right there, I'm gonna make a chain. So I'm gonna chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna do 6. This is a smaller button than I used on my other project, all right? And then from there, actually, I'm gonna do 8. I'll show you why in a second. Okay, so then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find a spot over here on the opposite side that I could push my hook through. And I'm gonna yarn over and pull up that loop and then slip stitch. So just pull it through, whoops, don't split your yarn. Just pull it through that loop and then I am gonna cut, leaving a little bit of a tail and pull that through, okay? So the reason I ended up going a little bit longer on this is because my button is way at the edge here. So I wanted to make sure there was enough room for it to fit over, over that button. I probably could have stayed at 6, but that's okay. All right, you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So we'll do it again. So taking that yarn, whoops, sorry about that. So we're gonna go through one of the stitches down towards the end here at a corner. Take your yarn, pull it through, and from right there, start your chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna do 8 just to make it even with the other side. All right, and now we're gonna find a stitch down here that we can go through. It doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to be secure. Pull that through, slip stitch by pulling it through again. We're gonna clip and pull that through, all right? So now I have a loop on each end, okay? I'm gonna weave in these ends. So grab one of your needles. You don't have to worry about the size of the needle this time because all you're doing is weaving in. We are not, we don't have to go through the button this time. So I like to make that first one where I go back through my own loop. Tighten that up and then go ahead and weave that end in. I like to do a little backtrack every once in a while. We'll clip that. Do the other side. Okay, come on in. Go through that loop. Get that nice and tight to start, and then go ahead and do your weaving in. All right, and clip that. So you're gonna do that to the other end as well. All right, so that all of your ends are weaved in. So now you have this with these 2 loops on either side. So when you have your disposable mask, you're gonna do the same thing as we did before. You're gonna put the elastic down kind of behind the button and then pull that loop over, and that will hold the mask in place. Same thing on the other side. Obviously your ends will be woven in, but you're not going around the button, you're putting the button, or you're putting the elastic before the button, and then you're taking this loop and you're bringing it over the button, and when the mask is on and pulling, that will keep it in place. So again, this will allow you to take the mask down off of your nose, off of your face, and let it sit around your neck while, you know, if you need to get a breath of fresh air when you're not around others for a little bit. So it appears that we're going to be in this status for a little bit of wearing these masks, so we might as well make them comfortable, make them work for us. So I hope you enjoyed this. I will have written instructions on my blog, which is CoachMel'sCrochetCorner.com. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this is helpful. Stay safe out there.